At age 16, I worked the cafeteria line to afford lunch. One day, Lauren laughed. "It's cute you think you belong here." I just kept serving. At our 10-year reunion, cameras flashed as I walked in with my team from the White House. Lauren dropped her glass and said, "Wait, are you the—" I was 16 when I first realized just how far behind I was in life. It was my junior year at Oak Ridge High School, just outside of Springfield, Missouri. My mom had been laid off from the packaging plant, and the little we had coming in wasn't enough to keep the lights on and food in the fridge. Dad? Hell, I hadn't seen him since I was 10. So, it was just the two of us, me and my mom, trying to keep things from falling apart. That's how I ended up in the cafeteria line. Not just standing in it like the other kids, but working behind it, scooping mashed potatoes, handing out trays, pouring cartons of milk. I wore the apron, the hairnet, the gloves. Every day, I watched kids I had classes with come through, laughing, talking about football games, parties I wasn't invited to, clothes I couldn't afford. I did my job, kept my head down, and focused on the clock. Every hour I worked helped pay for the lunches I couldn't afford. It was a pretty quiet gig, until Lauren Bishop. Blonde hair, always curled. Cheer captain. Class president. Dad was the top lawyer in town. Mom was a real estate agent who drove a Mercedes. She walked around that school like she owned it, and in a way, she did. Everyone knew her. Everyone loved her. Everyone wanted to be her friend, or at least not get on her bad side. One day, she came through my line with her friends, holding her tray like it was beneath her. She looked me up and down and smirked. Then she said it, clear as day, loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. "It's cute you think you belong here." Her friends laughed, and I felt my face burn. I didn't say a word. I just kept serving. That's what I did, I kept serving. That day, I went home and told my mom. She hugged me, told me to keep my head up, that someday it would all pay off. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But it was hard, standing behind that line every day, invisible to the people who thought they were better than me. The rest of high school was a blur of late-night studying, part-time shifts, and trying to stay invisible. I didn't go to prom. I didn't go to parties. I worked. I applied to every scholarship I could find, and when I got the acceptance letter to Georgetown with a full ride, I didn't even tell anyone at school. I just left. I left Missouri behind, and I never looked back. 10 years later, the invitation showed up in my mailbox, Oak Ridge High School 10-year reunion. At first, I laughed and threw it in the trash. What did I care about a bunch of people I hadn't seen in a decade? But then I thought about Lauren. I thought about the way she'd laughed that day. About the way it felt to stand behind that cafeteria counter while she sneered at me like I was a piece of gum stuck to her shoe. And I decided I was going. I didn't go alone. I walked into that reunion at the Marriott Ballroom in downtown Springfield with my team from the White House. Real suits, real badges, real people. I was the deputy director of communications now, yeah, the White House. I had worked my way up from intern to staffer to where I was, sitting in meetings with the president, traveling on Air Force One, briefing the press. The second we walked in, cameras flashed. People turned. Heads snapped. And then I saw her. Lauren. She was standing by the bar, wine glass in hand, wearing a tight red dress that was probably a size too small. Her eyes locked on me, and I swear to God, the color drained from her face like someone had pulled the plug. The glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. She stared, mouth open. "Wait," she stammered, voice shaking. "Are you the—" I smiled. "Yeah. I'm the one who used to serve you lunch." Lauren didn't say anything for a beat, just stood there, frozen. Then she forced a laugh, this fake, high-pitched thing, and tried to smooth it over. "Oh my God, I didn't even recognize you," she said, voice too loud. Her friends whispered, glancing at me, at the people in suits standing beside me. I could see it in her face, trying to place me, to make it make sense. She started asking questions fast, tripping over her words. So, like, what do you do now? She asked, voice a little too sweet. I glanced at my team, then back at her. I'm with the White House, I said, plain and simple. Her jaw dropped. Wow. That's really impressive, she said, though her eyes said something different. I could tell she was scrambling, trying to figure out how to pivot, how to save face. I wasn't about to make it easy for her. The rest of the night was a blur of fake smiles and stiff small talk. But I noticed her, how she kept watching me, how she whispered to her friends. Something was off. The next week, it hit me. I got an email at work, an anonymous tip. It had a photo attached, a grainy shot from years ago at a college party, me holding a solo cup. The subject line: White House staffer caught drinking underage. I knew it wasn't a real threat, but the intent was clear. I traced the IP address. It was from a law office in Springfield. Lauren's father's law office. I didn't play games. I called her. Lauren, I know it was you, I said. Silence on the line. Don't call here again, she said and hung up. That was the moment I knew this wasn't over. The silence after she hung up felt like a slap in the face. But I wasn't surprised. Lauren always did things this way. She made her moves, then hid behind her last name, her family, her privilege. But she didn't know me anymore. I wasn't the kid behind the cafeteria line. I was someone who had learned to fight quietly, patiently. I dug deeper. I called in a favor from a friend in cybersecurity, someone I'd met during a policy project on elections security. Within a few hours, I had confirmation. The email had been sent from Lauren's work computer at her dad's law firm. I sat on that information for a few days, thinking. I didn't want to go nuclear, not yet. I wanted her to squirm first. So I sent her an email, no threats, no accusations. Just a simple message: Lauren, I know it was you. Let's see where this goes. An hour later she called. Her voice was different this time, tight, clipped, almost shaking. What do you want? She hissed. I let the silence hang for a beat before I answered. Nothing yet. And I hung up. That week, I kept working like nothing had happened. I sat in meetings with senior staff, helped draft a speech for the president, flew to a summit in Chicago. But every so often, I'd get a notification. Lauren had liked an old photo of mine on Facebook, or viewed my LinkedIn profile. She was spiraling. Then, the real twist came. One night, around 11 p.m., I got a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of Lauren, at a bar, clearly drunk, her arm around a man who was not her husband. The caption: Bet the local paper would love this. I stared at it for a long minute. My heart wasn't racing. It was cold, steady. I realized then, Lauren wasn't just trying to rattle me. She was trying to destroy me. But whoever sent this had no idea I wasn't the one being blackmailed. I replied, wrong target. Try again. The next day, I went to work like usual, but I was done playing defense. I called my journalist friend again, this time, with everything. Lauren's attempt to leak the college party photo. Her father's law firm's involvement. The blackmail attempt. They ran the story under the headline: Local law firm tied to smear campaign against White House staffer, family power, hidden scandals, and blackmail. The fallout was immediate. Her father's firm was hit with an ethics investigation. Lauren was suspended from her job, pending an internal review. Her name was everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, the local news. People started asking questions about her family. But it didn't stop there. A week later, I got a message from her husband, Greg. I didn't know him well, but we'd gone to the same high school. His message was short. I know everything now. Thank you. Turns out, the bar photo wasn't just a random threat, it was real. Lauren had been cheating on Greg for months. Someone must have caught wind of her mess and tried to drag me into it. Greg filed for divorce, and it wasn't quiet. By the time the dust settled, Lauren had lost her job, her marriage, and her reputation. And me? I kept working. I got a promotion 6 months later, special assistant to the president. I stayed focused on the work, because that's what mattered. But when I saw Lauren's name pop up in a local news article months later, former law firm associate cited in ethics scandal, bar license under review, I won't lie. I smiled. I didn't need to send her any more messages. She got the point. And the next time I heard someone laugh at a kid working the cafeteria line, I told them this. You never know who you're serving. And you never know who'll end up serving you. A few months later, I got a call I never expected. It was Lauren. Her voice was hoarse, desperate, barely holding it together. Please, can we talk? I stared at the phone, debating whether to hang up, but something told me to hear her out. So I agreed. We met at a coffee shop near her old firm. She looked like a shell of the girl I remembered, messy hair, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. Her nails, once manicured and perfect, were chipped and bitten down. She was gripping a paper cup so tight it looked like it might tear. She launched right into it, no pleasantries. My dad cut me off. Greg's taking everything in the divorce. I have nothing left. The ethics board's meeting next week, and they're probably going to revoke my license. I can't get a job anywhere. No firm will touch me. She took a shaky breath and looked up at me, her eyes wide, pleading. Please. I know I messed up. I was stupid in high school, and I was stupid now. But I'm begging you, can you make some calls? Help me get a job? Or at least ask your friend to pull down the article? For a long moment I said nothing. I just let the silence hang in the air. Then I leaned forward, my voice low and steady. Do you remember what you said to me in the cafeteria line that day? Her mouth opened, then closed. She nodded slowly, shame washing over her face. I wasn't trying to ruin your life, she whispered. I shook my head. No, Lauren. You were trying to protect your own. You thought if you could tear me down, you could stay on top. Tears welled in her eyes. Please. I stared at her, dead cold. No. She blinked, like she hadn't processed the word. Like she didn't think I had it in me to say it. No. I repeated, my voice even sharper. You did this to yourself. And you'll have to live with the consequences. She broke then, really broke. Her face crumpled, and she started sobbing, right there in the middle of the cafe, in front of everyone. People stared, some whispering, others awkwardly looking away. But I didn't feel bad. Not an ounce. This wasn't a moment for mercy. This was the reality she had built, brick by brick, when she decided to come after me. I stood up, collected my things, and before I walked out, I leaned in one last time. Just remember. Next time you want to ruin someone's life, think about what happens when they don't play by your rules. And then I left her there, alone, crying, broken. But that wasn't the end. A year later I heard through a mutual friend that Lauren had moved back in with her parents. No job, no prospects, her reputation in the dirt. Her father's firm never recovered from the scandal. They lost clients, lawsuits piled up, and eventually they had to shut down. The Bishop family went from the top of Springfield's social ladder to the bottom, overnight. And me? I kept climbing. By then, I was the senior communications director at the White House. I'd even been mentioned as a potential candidate for press secretary in the next administration. My name was in papers for the right reasons. I was invited to panels, events, podcasts. My voice carried weight. And every so often, I'd get a message from an old classmate, saying they'd seen me on TV, or read an article I'd written. They'd say how proud they were, how they always knew I'd make it. I never corrected them. They didn't know the whole story. But I did. I never needed to get even. I just had to wait for karma to finish the job. And it did. In the end, the girl who laughed at me from across the cafeteria line? She ended up serving a sentence far worse than I ever could have imagined. And me? I kept serving my country. Funny how that works. About 6 months after that coffee shop breakdown, I got a thick envelope in the mail. It was from the Missouri State Bar Association. I didn't even have to open it to know what it was. Lauren's license had been revoked. The investigation had dragged on longer than I expected, but they'd finally made it official. Lauren Bishop was no longer an attorney. But the real bombshell came a few weeks later. A news story broke. Front page of the Springfield Gazette. The headline screamed across the page. Bishop family under investigation, fraud, tax evasion, and misuse of funds uncovered in law firm collapse. Turns out, while Lauren's dad's firm was imploding, someone started digging through their records. Whistleblowers, former clients, even a few junior associates looking to save their own skins. What they found was a mess: missing retainer fees, falsified billing statements, unreported income. It was the kind of scandal that didn't just ruin a family name, it burned it to the ground. Lauren's father, Richard Bishop, was arrested within days. The IRS froze their assets. Clients sued. Class action lawsuits started stacking up. Their house, a sprawling 5-bedroom brick mansion with a pool out back and a 3-car garage, was seized by the bank. Lauren? She wasn't just unemployed now. She was flat broke, living back in that same house as it went into foreclosure. Her mom filed for divorce to protect what little was left in her name, and from what I heard, Lauren's siblings cut her off completely, blaming her for bringing the heat down on the family. But karma wasn't done with her yet. That same week, Greg, her ex-husband, filed a restraining order. Apparently, Lauren had been harassing him, sending long, unhinged texts in the middle of the night, showing up outside his apartment drunk, begging him to take her back. He was dating someone new now. A nurse, someone down to earth, and she wasn't having any of Lauren's games. I remember reading that restraining order filing, and I couldn't help but smirk. Then, the final twist hit. I was at a policy roundtable in D.C., talking about food insecurity in public schools, a subject close to my heart for obvious reasons. Afterward, a reporter pulled me aside. She had a familiar look on her face, the kind of smirk that says I know something you don't. Off the record, she said, lowering her voice. You know Lauren Bishop, right? Springfield, Missouri? I nodded, keeping my face neutral. She leaned in. Word is, she tried applying for a position as a cafeteria worker at Oak Ridge High. The same school she went to. For a second, I didn't believe it. I thought maybe it was a cruel joke. But she wasn't smiling anymore, she was serious. Apparently, she got rejected. They didn't want the press. I stood there for a moment, just taking it in. Lauren Bishop, the girl who laughed at me when I worked behind the cafeteria line at 16, now trying to get a job in the very same cafeteria, and being turned down. I mean, you can't make that up. That night, I sat in my apartment, sipping a glass of wine, looking out over the DC skyline. My phone buzzed. It was a message from an old classmate. Hey, just saw you on CNN. Can't believe how far you've come. You were always so quiet back then. Congrats. I didn't respond. I just set the phone down, took a slow sip, and let the silence wash over me. Because I wasn't just the kid who served lunch anymore. I was the person who outlasted them all. Lauren tried to destroy me, twice. She tried to sabotage my career, smear my name, and tear me down. But in the end, she destroyed herself. Her family's empire? Gone. Her marriage? Gone. Her career? Dead. Her reputation? A joke. And me? I was still standing. Stronger. Smarter. Unstoppable. The girl who thought she ruled the cafeteria line ended up begging for scraps at the same table. And I never had to lift a finger. That's the thing about revenge. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let the universe handle it. And watch them choke on the same poison they tried to feed you. That's exactly what happened to Lauren. And damn, It was worth the wait.